Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening. Thank you for downloading. And thank you for subscribing to the latest edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. I am your boy, 12 Kyle. Check this out. On this bonus episode, what I'd like to do is break down for you which borough in New York City has produced the best MCs. Now, be clear. This wasn't something that I came up with. As usual, I'm scrolling through Instagram the other day and I came upon this post from an account that I don't follow, but Instagram throws stuff on your timeline that you don't even have to follow these days. And it was one of those things where it lists the boroughs, and then it also listed 5 MCs, and it just had their pictures of 5 MCs from each borough. And I stopped and looked at it, and I was like, off the top of my head, I was like, based on the MCs that they used, I was like, this should be relatively easy. I was like, this would be something good to put on the podcast. The more that I think about it, it wasn't as easy as I thought, but I'm going to give it to you anyway. And again, I didn't pick these MCs. These are just the 5 MCs from each New York City borough that were picked. Now, if you're not familiar with your geography, New York City has 5 boroughs. There's Queens. There's the Bronx. There's Brooklyn. There's Harlem and Staten Island, or better known as Chi-Lin. So that's what we're choosing from. And these are in no particular order, but I'm going to read to you the order in which each borough was selected and the MCs that were selected. Again, I didn't select these MCs, but I'm going to tell you which borough has produced the best MCs based on this list. And then I'm going to rank the boroughs as I see them as far as these MCs are concerned. So let's get it started. All right. First up, the BX, the Bronx, New York, home of hip hop. We got to thank and pay homage to the great Kool Herc. Back in 1973, he started this thing that we call hip hop. It was called rap back then, and it's been around 50 years at the time of this recording. So it's enough to celebrate and continue celebrating, because we should celebrate this because it is the best, the most dominant art form of entertainment and music in the world. That being said, the Bronx, here are the 5 MCs that they selected on Instagram from the Bronx. Number 1, Big Pun. Number 2, KRS-One. Number 3, Slick Rick. Number 4, Fat Joe. Number 5, Diamond D. All right. So that's the Bronx, New York. Now we're going to take it over to Brooklyn. Brooklyn, New York. The 5 MCs that were selected. The Notorious B.I.G. Sean Corey Carter, a.k.a. Jay-Z. Big Daddy Kane. Fabulous. And A.Z. Okay, that is Brooklyn. Brooklyn, New York. All right, so now we're going to take them uptown, as they say. Harlem World. Representing the borough of Harlem. The late, great Big L. Rest in peace. Cameron. Mase. Shout out to Mase and Cameron for their podcast. Juelz Santana. And last but not least, Jim Jones. Dipset. Now we'll move over here to the borough of Queens, New York. The MCs selected for Queens: Prodigy, Nas, the cool gangster of rap, aka Cool G Rap. Ladies love Cool James. That would be none other than Todd Smith, aka LL Cool J. And last but not least, Curtis Jackson, aka 50 Cent, representing the borough of Queens. And last but not least, Staten Island, aka Shaolin. And as you might have guessed it by now, all of the MCs that were selected from Staten Island are members of the Wu-Tang Clan. That's right. Ghostface Killah, Method Man, Raekwon the Chef, Inspector Deck, and the RZA. All right. So those are the boroughs, and those are the MCs that they selected. This account on Instagram, I think what is the name of this account? You know what? Let me give them some credit because, okay, this is an account called, nope. Okay, QB underscore NYC. So thank you, QB underscore NYC on Instagram for this post because this created this particular bonus podcast episode. All right, so now I'm going to tell you which one has the better MCs. At first glance, I was like, oh man, it's got to be this one. Then I thought about it. I was like, no, not really. Then at second glance, I was like, yo, it's got to be this one. Not really. All right. So I think what I'm going to do is I will rank them starting at 5 and go to 1. And then I'll tell you why I ranked them the way that I did. Coming in at number 5, the home of hip hop, the Bronx. The Bronx, again, represented by Big Pun, Fat Joe, Diamond D, KRS-One, and Slick Rick. Now, Slick Rick is from he's from England, but I think, the Bronx kind of claims Slick Rick, or maybe that's where he lived or whatever, but I know that's where he was born. I want to say he may have gone to high school in the Bronx. So wherever you went to high school at, that's where you're from. But this is what they had. So Slick Rick and the rest of the crew are going to represent, and I think they are coming in at number. No, you know what? Let me rephrase that. I'm not going to have them at 5. At 5, I'm going to put Harlem, Uptown. That would be Big L, Cameron, Mase, Joel Santana, and Jim Jones. They're going to come in at 5. At number 4, I'm going to choose the Bronx. All right. So again, the Bronx, Big Pun, KRS-One, Slick Rick, Diamond D, and Fat Joe. Okay. So now this is getting a little tricky here. At number 3, and this was tough. At number 3, I'm going to say the island of Staten, aka Shaolin. I'm going to go with that. And again, that's pretty much just Wu-Tang. And I'll tell you why in just a second. So that's Ghostface, Method Man, Raekwon, Inspector Deck, and RZA. All right. Coming in at number 2, the BK. Brooklyn, New York. Biggie, Jay-Z, Big Daddy Kane, Fabulous, AZ. And then that leaves number 1, Queens. Queens is going to be represented by Nas, Prodigy, Cool G Rap, LL Cool J, and 50 Cent. Like I said, this was a little bit, at first glance, I thought it would be easy just to pick the 5 and say which one was the best and then rank them. But it wasn't as easy as I thought. And the reason being is because Staten Island is tough. Staten Island is extremely tough by these MCs that they chose. But I think the thing that knocks Staten Island down, at least for me, is as far as MCs, they put RZA on here. Now, I know that's where RZA's from, right? If they had put Genius on here, and I want to say, without even looking it up, I want to say I don't think Genius is originally from Staten Island. I think he's from Brooklyn. So that's probably why he's not on here. But But if you were able to put Jizza on here instead of RZA, so you put the Genius on here instead of RZA, Staten Island's got a case. Staten Island's got a case. I just couldn't. I couldn't put, but between Method Man, Ghostface, and Raekwon, Inspector Deck, incredible MCs, right? Incredible MCs. Just a little tier below landed them at number 3. Number 2 and number 1, and really, if you ask some people, it's a toss-up. Now, based on what the MCs that they gave us here, I mean, you can't go wrong with Biggie, Jay-Z, and Big Daddy Kane. You can't. I mean, you can't. Now, if you want to throw Busta Rhymes in there, because I think Busta's from Brooklyn, I wouldn't put Busta over these other MCs, but I'm just saying, if you wanted to put him in there, I think there are probably more than a few people that will say, hey, I'm rocking with Busta, or I'm rocking with Brooklyn. But I can't put Brooklyn, as great as MCs as Jay-Z, Big, and Big Daddy Kane. I don't think that they top the Queens MCs. And the Queens MCs, again, Nas, Prodigy, rest in peace from Mobb Deep, Cool G Rap, LL Cool J, and 50 Cent. I can make a case. I can make a case that between Nas, Cool G Rap, and LL Cool J, you've got 3 MCs in the top 10 as far as lyrics, not as far as hits and none of that shit. As far as lyrical, miracle bars, I can make a case that you've got 3 in the top 10, at the very least 3 in the top 15, right? So I don't think anybody's touching that. And then when you add 50 Cent, who is not really, I wouldn't call really lyrical, but what 50 was, particularly during 50's run, I mean, ain't too many people can top that, right? But we're talking lyrics, but still, even in his run, he was something. So it's kind of hard to say, to knock him down, but I'm gonna give Queens the edge. And I mean, LL is LL. Eclectic calls him the GOAT. He's not, but he calls him the GOAT anyway. Shout out to Eclectic. But nah, I mean, like, Queens is formidable. I mean, it ain't too many boroughs. It ain't too many people that can touch Queens. I'm gonna be honest. So, yeah, man, it's and then Nas. I mean, you guys, if you follow this podcast long enough, you know how I feel about Nas. I personally feel like Nas is the second greatest lyrical MC ever, right behind Rakim. But it's incredible, man. I mean, it is really, really incredible. Long Island didn't make it. Long Island is a borough. They didn't make it. Which I don't know how, but I thought Long Island was a borough. I mean, last time I checked, I mean, I don't know. But I guess if Harlem, but then again, if Long Island should be a borough, not Harlem. But I mean, I don't know. Maybe some New Yorker will hear this or watch this and say, hey, son, those ain't the boroughs, B. I mean, I don't know. I love geography, and I know New York City, but I don't think Harlem is a borough. But for the sake of this discussion and the Instagram post, Harlem is a borough. Nonetheless, man, there you have it. If you think I'm wrong, or if you would have voted something different, another borough differently, hit me up and let me know. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast. Remember, this podcast drops every Thursday at midnight. And from time to time, we do bonus episodes just like this one on Sundays at midnight. If you're listening on Spotify, there's a little thing at the bottom of the podcast that asks you if you have any feedback for the podcast. You can leave some comments there as well. If you're watching on YouTube, thank you for watching. Salute. Make sure that you subscribe. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that like button. Also, if you want to hit us up on Cash App, we won't turn down any money. $TWELVEKYLE. Make sure you follow me on all the socials at 12Kyle and at 12Kyle Podcast. We also have a TikTok page. Follow there on the Tiki of the Talks. That's 12Kyle Podcast. Same for Instagram, Facebook, the whole 9, Twitter X, 12Kyle and 12Kyle Podcast. Again, that's going to do it for me. This has been another bonus episode of the 12 Kyle podcast where we talked about who's the best in New York City. Again, you can agree or you can disagree. Holla at your boy. Thanks again for checking out this episode. I'll catch you guys next time. 5,000.